when I look at pictures of myself as a baby or small child, I usually can't look for too long because it just makes me feel too sad to see the joy, I suppose, that seemingly exudes from my person. Is it, and just an overall sense of innocence, goodness, no no real malice whatsoever is present. Not like when I compare it to pictures that I'll see of myself nowadays, or just simply a reflection in the mirror, where it's as if the person I see before me is not myself, but some other person, some adult stranger who I can see quite clearly the ravages of time upon their countenance. Such things as pain and marks left by pain, marks left by torture, disappointment, worry, anger, rage, and just an emptiness. That's mostly what I see, especially in the eyes. That's the most striking thing in comparison to when I was a child. Just dead, cold stare, emptiness. Just this, the coals of a burnt out anger. Because for a while, at least anyhow, I'm sure it's the case of most other people, it's the response to the situation as it becomes more clear what it in fact is. That is what the situation of this life is, and being a person that has to navigate their way through it. The response is oftentimes anger or a revulsion against it, but um, it isn't going to, you have the whole cliche punk rock thing. What I think it's from the Clash, the lyrics, anger is an energy, don't you know that you can use it? Well, it's like, yeah, but it's when that anger is directed against something so stubborn as a brick wall, there's only um, it's only going to get you so far, and more likely than not, the immovable object is not going to uh, yield to however pronounced your exertions are towards it, and you'll be the one that is inevitably defeated by your own self in part. And that's the whole learned helpless situation, right? Learned helplessness. Um, and yeah, so I look at myself, and it's not really I don't see it as being me. I just it's like there was a point in time in my teens when I was reached a point where I was able to be cognizant enough to see that the um, what very well may be the inevitability of becoming like this jaded, burnt out, cynical adult stereotype. Um, all of those things are just ultimately just synonymous with the word adult, right? And I, because I was cognizant of this fact, I made as if to make efforts that would, um, to the best of my knowledge anyway, would for myself prohibit such an outcome, that I wouldn't become like what I saw around me. I wouldn't become a product of my environment. I would be my own self. Um, I would maintain this youthful vivacity and exuberance, this zest. Um, and of course, it didn't work. It was like trying to grasp onto to to a gas. It was just an impossibility to maintain this joy. Um, and yeah, I mean, I could attribute a great deal of that happening to life events, trauma, and so on. But I think it's also attributable to just the sheer fact of diminishing returns and becoming overly habituated to novelty. So, sure, there's a better way of putting that. That was a specific phrasing I was looking for, but that will have to suffice. Um, so everything becomes dull. Um, it's this the mind, or the brain, more accurately, needing to maintain homeostasis. So joy is not going to be sustainable because it's an unbalanced state. It leans too far in one direction. It's not a it's yeah, it's an unbalanced state, and because I should also add that in tandem with this, with this increased capacity for joy and just overall positive emotional states was on um, the inverse, the capacity for the inverse, so negative, heightened negative emotional states. Um, and so there would be this emotional um, lability, I think is how you say it. A lot of fluctuations between these heightened emotional states, a lot of swing back and forth, um, which it presented its own set of problems, I must say. Um, so maybe um, anhedonia has its benefits, right? Bittersweet benefits, well, of course. But overall, obviously, to be dead inside is not really conducive to overall life satisfaction, to put it mildly. Um, and just the what seems to me just the sheer sense of inevitability to arriving at this state is what's so I guess upsetting, perhaps, that um, the innocent, um, joyful infant was always just doomed. They had their days were numbered in terms of being in such a state, being able to experience such states. Of course, uh, in terms of their mortality, their days are always numbered. Everyone's days are numbered, regardless of their inherent capacities for experiencing positive emotional states. But yeah, it's just, it's like there's a sense that some other person has like inhabited my psyche along to accompany this foreign physicality, this strange countenance that stands before me and mirrors and looks back at me from pictures that have been captured of it. And so it's like this schism, perhaps a sort of split in the psyche where I'm observing this foreigner, right? Some part of me is still this innocent being observing this latest addition to the internal space, and kind of horrifying in some ways, a lot of ways, really. I mean, it's like the majority of things, aspects of this experience. Most of them you'll find to be abundant in horror when you really actually look at what is unfolding before you, because most of the time we're just, well, for myself anyway, I'll say I'm just like, and what seems to be the case with others is that we're in this trance-like state. We're not seeing fully what we're experiencing. We're unable to fully grasp the complete absurdity of just existing at all. And if we were able to abide more fully in that state, it just seems like there will be a lot more clarity to what should and should not be the case. And certainly I think the antenatal position could be considered a product of coming into contact with that state of clear seeing, possessing a clear mind as a result of clear seeing, which further facilitates the ability to see clearly, of course. Has a kind of momentum to it. Trauma as well, right? It's just, as I already said, it's sort of the two things, right, that lead one to arrive at this state of at least feeling like their living essence, the very vitality of them is being completely drained from them. It's the habituation to the novelty of everything, but more just broadly life, existence, and then the trauma, and trauma is fucking everywhere. It's a trauma to just be in any day. Even just the birth trauma, we're just ejected from our mother's wailing. And yeah, it really doesn't seem to matter in terms of becoming dead inside, whether you're exposed to these what would be considered subtle or inconsequential traumas, or not even traumas at all in a lot of people's eyes, or the more macro acceptable traumas that people commonly attribute with being the causation for post-traumatic stress disorder, for example. So, people experiencing war, rape, car accidents, muggings, things like this. But I don't know. It has been in recent years more of this acknowledgement of complex post-traumatic stress. So traumas that are just not so acute and immediate, but more subtle and persistent, occurring over a protracted period of time rather than in a single instant, as with post-traumatic stress. And that sort of every human, every every creature, every sentient animal, right, that roams this earth, um, you could make the argument that they all suffer from complex post-traumatic stress. That is just the um, um, that is just what it is to live on this earth, is to be traumatized and suffer the loss of your own sense of self, to be hollowed out from the inside before being crushed on the outside and completely erased as if you never were. Become like a blade of grass on your own grave. Yep. Pretty pretty neat little thing we've got going on here. It makes me wonder. It occurred to me yesterday on the evening when I was walking around, um, whether, if in a purely hypothetical situation, humans um, didn't conceive children through sexual intercourse, and there was no such thing as children, say, would two adults get together and somehow arrive at the conclusion that having lived life for some amount of time and seen what it's all about, decide that the right thing to do is to somehow bring more people here, more of themselves. If they had no idea that it was a possibility to do so, would they, knowing what they would then know about life, and no one having no external societal framework to have embedded within their minds from a super young age, and having their biological drives in tandem with that, conspiring to procreate and hatch another being into this world, would they think, we should really have more of us here. We should replicate our own experience. All the everything that I have done, all the menial, painful, toilsome troubles I have gone through to perpetuate my own existence, for what? I should replicate this. It's interesting to think about, because I feel like people wouldn't. They wouldn't. They wouldn't come to that. Um, but I don't know. Kind of a digression. Yep.